Today we'll be making some vegetarian meatballs. These are great with spaghetti and spaghetti sauce over them, or you can eat them more like a meatloaf with a red sauce made with ketchup, which is the way we're going to make ours today. Okay, I've started by preparing some of the items that I'm going to be needing: the onions and cheese, some walnuts that I chopped up in this chopper. I had a better nut grinder, but this works since my other one broke, and some cracker crumbs. Now, the recipe that I'm using is actually from a friend of mine, and I'm going to take a picture of it here. It is for a large group of people, so she has things in pounds, and I am making this recipe for a smaller group, so I'm going to make just about 2/5 of the recipe. Okay, we're going to start by putting in a cup of cheese into our bowl and one chopped up medium-sized onion and 2/3 of a cup of walnuts that are chopped up. All right, the recipe calls for breadcrumbs, which I often substitute cracker crumbs for, and that's what I'm going to do today. It calls for drying your own bread and then grinding it up and making crumbs out of it. But we're putting one package of cracker crumbs in there, the saltine crackers. Calls for a teaspoon of salt. So put about a teaspoon of salt in there, and then 8 eggs. There's quite a few eggs in this recipe, but that's what holds everything together. This is what you might call an old family recipe. It's one that my mom has made all of my life, and I've made for my kids, and we have enjoyed it many times. But I had lost the recipe, and so I got it from this friend when she made some that tasted so much like him, and I'm excited to have that recipe again. So we're gonna stir this all up. Since I'm modifying this recipe from the friend, making a large recipe into a smaller one, I ended up adding an extra half of a sleeve of cracker crumbs to this mixture because I probably only needed to have 6 eggs in here. And now I'm ready to spray my cookie sheet and put these on the cookie sheet. I'm going to bake them. The other alternative is to fry these up, and I often do that when I'm in a hurry. This time I'm going to go ahead and bake them while I make the sauce that I'm going to put on top. Okay, they're all out on the cookie sheet now. I used this 1/4 cup cookie scoop to scoop them out onto this baking sheet because it just makes them all nice and the same size. And now I'm going to put them in the oven and bake them for about 10 to 12 minutes. The recipe says to bake them at 350. My oven runs a little bit hot, so I'm going to try 325 and see how that works. Okay, we're ready to make the sauce that we're going to put on these. The recipe calls for equal amounts of brown sugar, ketchup, and water. And so I'm going to use half a cup of each for now. I have the brown sugar, here's the water, and ketchup. So I happen to have large family, I have a large family size ketchup to pour out of. This recipe doesn't sound all that great to me, but it actually turns out making the meatballs, just adding a nice flavor to them. I really like the flavor of this. All right, I've brought these little beauties out of the oven. I am enjoying the smell. The whole kitchen is smelled up by them. And now I'm going to put them into this 9x13 baking pan. I have my trusty helper by my side. He's actually hoping that I'm going to drop something, which I'm not, but there he is, waiting for any little piece that may drop. So this recipe made 36, oh excuse me, I think 35 of these little patties, or meatballs, vegetarian meatballs. And I'm going to put most of them in this container. It looks like I can't quite fit them all, but I don't think my family will mind if they have some extra. And now I'm going to pour this sauce over it. And stick it back in the oven for a little while. Okay, let's check our patties, our vegetarian meatballs, and recap on the recipe. So it looks like, oh, they're yummy looking, they're bubbling, ready to sit and cool for a little bit. I ended up making 2 recipes of the sauce and using most of it. Instead of just half a cup of each, I used a cup of the ketchup, a cup of the brown sugar, and a cup of water. There we go. The meatballs that you can use with spaghetti or in more of a meatloaf style.